YouTube, what are you waiting for? I'm Josh Sawicki. I'm back here today. I want to talk to you about one of my favorite topics. Obviously, every single one of these is one of my favorite topics, but today is going to be all about sobriety. Sobriety, that's a fun one. Sobriety is a fun one. I actually embrace sobriety, and I enjoy talking about sobriety. The biggest reason that I enjoy talking about sobriety is because it's the one that's brought me the greatest amount of joy. Yes, losing weight has definitely changed my life for the better. I'm able to, get around much better. I'm healthier now. But sobriety is the one that made me push to get healthy and to lose weight. Sobriety is a choice. Sobriety is something you have to strive and work for on a daily basis. And if you don't work at it, you'll never actually be sober. Because being sober is more than just abstaining from alcohol and drugs or anything else along those lines. Being sober means making positive changes and creating a life that you want to have. My sobriety took me a very long time to get to. I knew I had an issue with alcohol almost immediately. I would say from the very first time that I drank. Very first time I drank, I went to a friend's house and I pounded about 10 Coors Lights, and I blacked out. I don't remember anything. And the next day was horrendous. I had texted and voicemailed and everything else. I threw up on my sheets. It really was a mess. It was a mess. It was disgusting. I was disgusted with myself. But I had a feeling at that age, and I was young. I mean, I was maybe 8. I might have still been 17 or 18. I don't remember. But I remember that I think I had an issue at that point. The second time I drank was very similar. I was my parents were out of town. They went to Las Vegas, and I had a couple friends over, and I just pounded Smirnoff Ice and vodka, and it was disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. I mean, mix vodka into Smirnoff Ice and tell me that's not gross. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm thinking about it right now as bleh. But I, again, blacked out, and the next morning I was hungover, and I had to go home from work, and I pissed my friends off because I was a mess, and it should have never happened. It was horrendous. I knew I had an issue at that point. I did. Second time I'd ever drank in my entire life, I knew I had an issue. Now, fast forward a little bit, when I went away to college. I went away to college and immediately was, kind of thrust into partying. I met very good friends that I am still so close with to this day. Ryan, shout out to you, buddy. But so I went there and started partying and drinking heavily very early on. I think I had said oh no, I don't drink, because I didn't drink because I knew I had these issues. But I was also started hanging out with fraternity. And what do you do in a fraternity? Well, you drink. At the time, there was a movie called Old School. Old School with Will Ferrell. It was all about the fraternity life, and that was a big thing in the fraternity I eventually joined. And it was just, you watched the movie, and it made drinking seem so fun, and it was part of frat life, and that's what you wanted to do. Joining a fraternity is not the reason that I drank. Let me just be clear there. A fraternity is a great thing if it's the route that you want to go. But besides the point, I joined and I was making friends and I was blacking out. And I remember having a bottle of Southern Comfort, and I marked that bottle at a line, because I didn't want to drink and I wanted to be held accountable to that. Well, I couldn't stop myself, couldn't hold myself. And when I drank, I pissed people off and I needed help. This is embarrassing, but one night I actually was so drunk that I literally peed into my dirty clothes hamper while Ryan was telling me, hey, you're going to the bathroom in your closet. And I knew what I was doing. I like remember it. I remember standing there saying, yeah, and I did it anyway. How messy is that? How messy is that? Drinking was always such an issue for me. I met my now ex-wife, and she was constantly telling me she didn't appreciate the drinking. My family was constantly telling me that I needed to get the drinking out of my life, and I did, but I didn't want to. I liked it. I liked that feeling. As soon as you took that drink, everything went away. Everything. And that's the terrible part about drinking, is that you're trying to mask your feelings. You are trying to mask or hide what's really going on in your life. Now, I drank because I did like how it made me feel, but I also drank because I didn't have to be inside my own head. Now, learning to be inside your own head is one of those things that once you master it, it's great. You can figure out what you want to do and how you want to proceed in life. But figuring out how to get there, especially as a young man, it was a difficult journey for me because I enjoyed things like drinking alcohol, smoking weed. I'll get to weed in a different video. That's not today's. That is also getting sober, but just in a different way. But now drinking alcohol was just an escape for me. It was an escape, and it was something that just led me. I didn't have to be me. I didn't have to. And the issues that I was having in the world, I didn't have to think about work. I didn't have to think about responsibility. I just didn't have to think. All I had to do was just veg out. And I loved it. But I loved it too much. I just had so many problems, and it just created so much drama that I just didn't need. Relationships started going sour. My work performance wasn't great. I don't know how to this day I didn't get fired. I almost did actually get fired from one of my jobs. I found out after the fact, but after I got sober, but I didn't realize it at the time that I actually possibly was on the brink of being let go. So it affected my life in every facet of it. It affected my relationship with my ex-wife. It affected my relationship with my friends. It affected my relationship with my family. It affected my relationship with my dog. It affected me. It affected my relationship with strangers because I had an aggression and an anger, and I didn't know how to cope with that, and I didn't know how to deal with those feelings. Because when I wasn't drinking, I didn't know how to be. I didn't know how to be. Think about that. I didn't know how to be who I was when I wasn't drinking. I didn't feel normal. That's sad. It really was sad. In hindsight, it was sad. And my ex-wife, she didn't want me to do it. She tried so many times to help me and get me to stop. And to this day, I don't know how she was so patient with it. And I realized that, she truly did love me. And I knew that at the time, but the fact that she cared so much to stay for those years, and I just didn't get it right, and I just didn't figure it out, she really was a good woman. She's happy now. She's got 2 kids. She's married. She seems great, and I couldn't be happier for her. I am thankful for her. Because without her, I wouldn't be where I am today. I don't know how to explain it, but everybody comes into your life for a reason. And my ex-wife and I were never meant to be together. Not in a relationship way. Not forever, at least. She was meant to be in my life to direct me on the path that I am today. And then once that path started to get there, go back to my video on God where I say, you have to figure out your path and your way and your purpose. Well, once that purpose and that path was set, she had run the course of my life. And it's sad to think of it like that because it's somebody that's not going to be in your life anymore. And that's okay. It is okay. So people, when they come into your life, you don't realize what the reason is. But my ex-wife's reason was to get me on the right path. And that path was to get sober, through and through. That's why she was put into my life. I needed to get sober, but I needed to do it for myself. And her pushing me to get sober, I couldn't do it because I didn't really want it. So when she finally left, I could finally drink the way that I wanted to drink. I could finally just go all out with it. And it's one of those things where it sounds great in the beginning, but it gets old very quickly. Very, very quickly. My drinking was just detrimental to me in every way, shape, or form. I drank and drove all the time, constantly. I don't know how I didn't kill myself. I don't know how I didn't kill anybody else. I one time was pulled over by a cop. And I don't know why, to this day, that cop did not give me a ticket or take me to jail. He didn't arrest me. And I don't know why. I think I do, because God didn't want to ruin my life. Nobody gets that lucky. And that, in and of itself, it shows to me that there is a God, because why else would I have not been arrested? Because I deserved to be arrested. I really did. I was reckless and careless, and this cop stopped me, and I was let go. And I still didn't stop drinking and driving, though, at that point, but I was getting closer to it. I was just a wreck. I really was. I would come home, I would drink, and until I don't remember anything, and I would wake up the next morning and I would puke every single morning. Every single morning. I was not living. I wasn't living. That's not a life. Like, what kind of life is that? Who wants to throw up on a daily basis? Who likes to throw up at all? Nobody. And every day it was just a ritual of mine, just to feel better. I couldn't eat anything in the morning. I couldn't even drink anything. Sometimes I was lucky if I was able to keep coffee down. I always hungover, always having a headache. I looked like garbage. You know, I mean, when you're throwing up, you get these red spots and they break, especially like if you really heave. And it's terrible. It is terrible. And I never want that life again. And I don't know why I waited so long to get sober. I do. It's because I didn't want it for myself until I wanted it for myself. Getting sober was one of the hardest things I ever had to do in my entire life. And abstaining and saying no to alcohol when all you want to do is just get fucked up, excuse my language, but there's no other way to put that. That's all you want to do. That's it. And it is not fun. It's not fun living that way. Well, you're not living, it's not fun existing that way. Let me be clear. So I didn't want to do it for myself until I finally did. And the thing about it is that being sober is eye-opening. It really is. It is one of those things that, like, you get to see everything through a different lens that you had not seen before. You get to experience joys that you've never seen before. You get to empathize with people in ways that you never did before. You sympathize with things that you never did. If you were emotional when you were drunk over something, that's because it was the alcohol creating the emotion. You might not be emotional about the same thing sober, but the things that you do become emotional about sober are much more meaningful and important. I lived my life drunk for years. At least full-time alcoholic, 7 years, and a binge drink for 3 before that, so about 10 years. Oh, probably, yeah, over 10 years, maybe 11, something along those lines. But yeah, I didn't want to get sober for myself, so I couldn't. Because you can't get sober for anybody else but you. You're the one that has to deal with the consequences. So you're the one that has to do it. And when you wake up